The essence of this panel is really to talk about what technology is doing for philanthropy. As you know, philanthropy is changing our lives, and no different for technology, is changing our lives, and there's no different from philanthropy. So coming out of this panel, what we want to do is talk about some models that are working, how to get introduced into philanthropy using technology, how to harness scale, and the democratization of philanthropy, as we mentioned in the previous panel, through technology. So I'll let Olushola start by sharing with us, what does the philanthropies lead at Microsoft look like, and what do you do?
Thank you very much. Very convenient way to start, because I get to talk about this very often. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us. I lead philanthropies at Microsoft, and my day-to-day work involves developing and driving the overall strategy for Microsoft's giving back strategy in Nigeria. So everything that has to do with investing back in the youth of Nigeria, working closely with the government of Nigeria to drive digital transformation amongst the youth, and ensuring that the organization is not just doing business in Nigeria, but also contributing effectively to the growth of the country. So vis-a-vis designing youth programs, empowering women, working to localize the global computer science movement, ensuring that the people of Nigeria, or the young people of Nigeria specifically, are future ready. They are ready to embrace the challenges that the future will bring, the opportunities that the future will bring, the workforce of the future, what will it look like, and how ready are they? So as a technology company, a leading technology company at that, we believe we have a very huge responsibility to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So in Nigeria, my work is to localize that mission. The mission of empowering every person. That's so the youth, the woman, the girl child falls into that bracket of the person, and every organization. So talk about NGOs, private sector organizations who run their own foundations, individual philanthropists, every organization on the planet to be able to achieve more. So within the larger Middle East and Africa group, I have to see to ensuring that NGOs in Nigeria who do strategic work are supported with technology donations. NGOs who are in alignment with our plans for the year are supported with cash grants, and that we can support these NGOs to grow to a point where they can in fact become sustainable and be able to scale their work.
Thank you, Olushola. So we'll get into how you do that soon, because I know you gave a broad description of what that looks like. Empowering everyone to achieve more. And I think that goes to the heart of what technology we've seen to do, especially through philanthropy. We talked about crowdsourcing earlier, how individuals can participate more. I'd love to turn it to Onyeka. Talk to us about farm crowdy. What does that mean, and how did that come about?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Onyeka Kuma, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Farm Crowdy. Farm Crowdy is a digital agriculture platform that connects small-scale farmers with investors. We like to call our investors farm sponsors. The goal is that when a farm sponsor comes on our website, he selects in an e-commerce style several farm options, so like rice, maize, cassava, soya beans, and poultry for broilers, and decides on how many units he wants to sponsor. Once the sponsor puts money through a platform, we get the monies and engage small-scale farmers, pretty much farmers that have between 2.5 acres to 7.5 acres of farmland, and connect them with this sponsor and make the funds available to them in form of farm inputs. At the end of a cycle, pretty much running from the time the sponsor makes his money available to the time the cycle is completed, we make sure that our technical field specialists coordinate with the farmers to get the desired quality and quantity of farm produce that we can sell to a prearranged buyer who would have discussed what we're going to do with the farmer own. And then we make this available to them so that the prearranged buyer at harvest will harvest what the farmer has done and then pay Farm Crowdy back. Now, Farm Crowdy splits profits between the farm sponsor, the farmer, and Farm Crowdy by paying the farm sponsor his original investment plus 40% of the profit. The Farm Crowdy keeps 20% of the profit, and the farmer gets 40% of the profit. How did it come about? There's been a lot of talk about agriculture and getting in that space. My time has seen me working with a lot of technology platforms, the likes of Konga, Jumia, Wakana, and they have you. And recently, while I was launching a platform called Travel Better, I wanted to invest a bit of my money in the agriculture space. So I spoke to a friend of mine who now is a co-founder, a couple of them, two of them are actually in the room, and said, let us look for a farmer and come together and invest in this farmer, because I wasn't going to do it alone. I didn't know so much about the agriculture space. And I needed somebody that had expertise in finance and in agriculture to join me on the journey. So we talked to this farmer. We talked to a couple of farmers, cassava farmers and fish farmers, and a couple of them. But this particular cassava farmer said to us that he had more land than he could use. So the average farmer has 7.5 acres, but they can only work on 2.5 acres per season. Now what we did was, we're going to sponsor the remaining part of his farm so that he can go full season. But later on he got back to us and said he was looking for a job. And I'm like, what happened? And then he said the season had gone past. And even if we raise that money for him, he can't do the work any longer. So at that point, I discovered that on one side, you had Nigerians that were interested in the agriculture space, a lot of media attention around agriculture and all, and everybody wants to get involved in it. I wanted to get involved in it. But you didn't know the farmers you could work with. You didn't know the farmers you could trust, or that you give your money and he will marry a second wife rather than farming, or a farmer that will actually do the work and be able to sell at the end of the season. Then on the other side, you had farmers who were considered, small-scale farmers that were considered unbankable and couldn't necessarily access loans except they go as cooperatives, not as individuals to the banks. They didn't know smart farming techniques, and they didn't, even when they solved the first two problems, at harvest, they didn't know how to sell their farm produce in order to get decent margin. So we set up Farm Crowdy to connect both sides. And in going along our work, we have worked with over 1,800 farmers, and the best part of our work is when our farm sponsors sponsor a farmer, they're able to also go and meet the farmer at any time in the cycle. And this particular story resonates with them when you get to see the man that your investment is not just making you a return, but having an impact in his life. So pretty much our model sits on that impact plus return bit and helps elevate the farmers from working on 2.5 to 7.5 acres and giving them smart farm techniques while people are earning a decent return at harvest.
That's a fascinating story. Who can be a farm sponsor? So can anyone just walk off the street and go to Farm Crowdy and invest in a farmer?
We do a bit of our due diligence on who's farm sponsors. Our first criteria is, because we focused on the community model, that we want Nigerians to sponsor Nigerian farmers to produce Nigerian food that Nigerians will eat. That same community model is what we're going to replicate in Ghana and other regions. Ghanaians sponsor Ghanaian farmers, so Ghanaians will produce what Ghanaians will eat. So right now, Farm Crowdy's focus is in Nigeria, and our focus is on getting Nigerians to sponsor. You just need to have a Nigerian bank account. We need to do some form of verification to know that, and we also have caveats against forms of money laundering, and someone just moves money around. So once those are, we flag it up and report it to the necessary authorities. But apart from that, anyone can come up with a Facebook profile and proper Nigerian bank account and sponsor as many units. And every time you sponsor, you get to see the farmers you're working with, that are your partners.
That's great. So I'll turn it to you, Olushola, and I'll come back around that scale issue that I think Farm Crowdy sought to solve, and the connection issue. Could you share a little bit, Olushola, around what specific investments that Microsoft has made and has used technology to solve some problems through your portfolio?
Thank you very much. So beginning with the fact that what we the model we use is to take a part of our investment, focus it directly on beneficiaries, and take a larger portion of that same investment and give to organizations that are trying to reach out to beneficiaries. So it's the same way our business runs. Our business runs using a partner model. We empower partners, these partners go out and they sell our products. So the same way our philanthropy model is to empower several nonprofits who meet up with a very diverse range of beneficiaries to do their work. A practical example would be that we have a software donation program that ensures that the non-profit beneficiaries who are doing the kind of work we think is very great, maybe working to support young people or working to, eradicate FGM or working to end malaria or eradicate polio, whatever, spectrum they are working. We ask them what technology needs they would need to scale up their work, or what technology needs they would have right now that is basically impeding their progress. Then we support them with that technology. We give them software donation, we give them cloud donation, in the sense that a normal private sector would buy, a normal private sector business would buy software, would have to buy that software to run their business. Your banks, your oil and gas companies, they're all buying that software. The same software is what we give for free to nonprofits. And this enables them to be able to increase their reach. So an example would be a nonprofit that is connecting teachers, professionals who want to volunteer their time to teach, to schools, public schools that do not have enough teachers. The organization is only able to onboard about 100 teachers with their physical onboarding means, which is they need to bring them into a room, provide lunch for them, train them on what methods they need to use in teaching kids in these public schools, all over the Lagos Island here. So we decided to support them with a Microsoft Azure donation, which is our cloud platform, and say, you know what, why don't you create a platform where you can onboard these teachers virtually, where regardless of where they are, they can connect online and basically take the regular e-learning model, but this time around you don't have to pay for hosting, you don't have to pay for building this technology, and even though we're still in the process of that, this NGO finds it very useful. So we made a donation of $5,000 Azure to them, and this will help them to be able to take their program from a program that has just 100 teachers to maybe 1,000 volunteer teachers. So that's an example. A number of popular foundations you might know, because we work intentionally, because I grew up in an underserved community, so I intentionally work with organizations that are really working to serve underserved communities. But in the midst of it too, we have to identify strategic NGOs that are like doing work at a very huge scale. So talk about the MTN Foundation, for example. They're an organization that we're giving software donations to. They are trying to do work to maybe connect more students, to give them more access, but we don't want them, since they're a foundation as well, to bear all the cost alone. So we support them with software donations, and then together we can go out and impact and reach more people. There's an organization, for example, that worked during the Benue relief efforts, that before they connected with Microsoft, every of the operations were all offline. They were, using paper to do their recordings. They were doing all of that, and they were accepting donations from people. And normally, if they accept those donations from people, they would need to use it for technology acquisition, instead of them spending the money on the real thing. So what we try to do is to come in and say, you know what? Do not spend any of the money you receive from people on technology acquisition. We'll give you a software donation. So we gave them about $26,000 software donation long before the emergency even occurred. And when the emergency occurred, they had that technology to be able to, work in their area. They work a lot on the field. They have to send report home. They have to contact donors. They have to contact all kinds of organizations. So they get access to that. And there are lots of organizations we've invited and that we still continue to invite. We see the great work you are doing. We send them an invitation and say, you know what? Why don't you apply for a software donation? And then this will help you to do more. So very quickly, to touch on the ones that we do directly. We're very big on computer science and on ensuring that Nigerian young people are prepared for the future of work. We know very clearly that 80% of all careers in the next decade are going to be driven by technology. And if you do not get ready for that, it's like an emergency that we've not really identified. It's like a disaster waiting to happen. You see, this unemployment rate we see now won't really be the real thing by the time people don't get ready for it. So we're very big on STEM, ensuring that people begin to, entrench science, technology, engineering, and mathematics into the work that they are doing in schools right now. And that computer science is a major, and they're two different things. Computer science and technology is actually different. And that's why we are principally a consuming country. or consuming continent. If we understand computer science, we'll be at the producing end of the equation, where we can also create applications for the next 1 billion people to use. So we're big on computer science, and last year alone, we trained 26,920 participants on how to code. And this is small compared to like our plan for the next year on our digital skills program. And we continue to, I wish I had some, opportunity to show you the video of a young lady who was one of the people who participated in our program about 3 years ago, who grew up in the slum in Ajegunle. Her name is Esther Olatunde. She grew up in the slum in Ajegunle. And partnering with one of our non-profits, Paradigm Initiative, we went on and extended the Ajegunle.org program to her and so many other of our colleagues. She went through that program, and instead of being maybe, the usual outcome of that kind of environment, she's gone on to intern at the British High Commission. She's now running her own startup. She just got incubated at Mest Ghana, and she always has great things to say. And that's just one out of the several hundreds and thousands of people that this work touches every single year.
Thank you. That's an excellent story. One of the trends I'm hearing from both of you is we have technology as something to focus on for philanthropies. But we also have technology as a conduit to solve problems that philanthropy can latch on. And one of the questions we're trying to solve is, how does technology amplify philanthropy? One of the things you mentioned is reducing the administrative costs, right? So we have a value chain of agriculture where you need to know all the players, but because of technology, because of your deployment of technology, you're able to bridge that gap and do more work through an app that you could have done walking to all the farmers and doing that due diligence and simplifying it. So, Onyeka, can you share a little bit about how the technology as a platform is reducing your administrative costs or is helping you catalyze some work that you're doing so you can do it better and faster, but actually achieve the same impact?
So I'll speak a bit about that in two areas. One is from the farm sponsors, and second is for the farmers. With the farm sponsors, we've been able to get out close to 1,000 farm sponsors in the last, we're going to be a year old in November, and all of these farm sponsors have done sizable amount of donations, if you use those words in this event.
What's the average size of donation?
So the average farm on Farm Crowdy is between 96,000 and 200,000. For 96,000 gets you 40-day-old chicks, and then 200,000 gets you 1 acre of cassava farm, for instance. But it varies across the different farms. So 145 for rice, different farms, right? And then you could come on Farm Crowdy and do as many units as you want. But when you pay for a particular unit, what you're doing is you're paying for the fertilizer, the labor, the seed, tractor service, insurance. You're paying for whatever it is the farmer needs, from tilling the ground to harvest and selling to the off-taker or to the prearranged buyer. All of that is factored into those units you pay for. So as many units as you pay for gives us the opportunity to engage as many farmers as possible that fit into our profile. Now, technology as an enabler has allowed us to create a website or create a mobile app. Our mobile app launches on our anniversary on November 14th. And pretty much it's now making people have farms in their pockets. So everyone is now moving around with farms in your pocket because you have that mobile app. And now you can sponsor or follow a farm, which are the two entry points in Farm Crowdy. Because one of the pain points for me was I wanted to get in the agriculture space, but I didn't know anything about the agriculture space. So one of the things we did in Farm Crowdy is we allow people to follow farms. You don't have to sponsor a farm. You can follow a farm and understand the agriculture space, understand what goes on. You get farm updates, pictures, videos from the farmers and from our technical field specialists on what happens per farm throughout the cycle. And then also for a farm sponsor, you can also monitor the activity. Now, one of those things that was a problem for impact or for philanthropy in the past was how to monitor the extent to which your investment or your donation goes to the right cost which you've put it in for. And one of the things we've done with Farm Crowdy is we're providing now a means for people to monitor those farmers, to get updates. And technology for us is that enabler. Speaking about farm sponsors also, in sourcing them, we use social media, we use email marketing. But beyond that, we also engage with them via telephone calls, via messages they get on their notification through their apps, and via notifications they get on their dashboard. All of these are enablers for us to the sponsors. To the farmers, on the other hand, many of them are not exposed to smart farming techniques. The opportunity of raising money via a philanthropic platform like FarmCrowdy allows us to now buy some of those devices that will help those farmers to now optimize their operations on the farm. This includes things like sensor devices, includes things like shredders, even the tools they need. The tools they need to do the work they need to do on the farm is now being provided through the technology we've used to source the funds from farm sponsors. So some of these are how we've used technology as an enabler to inform, to generate funds, to educate. Speaking about educating, one other thing we have is an app where our technical field specialists will be able to reach as many farmers as possible across a particular geographic location without having to meet the farmer one-on-one via their mobile device. So if there's a problem with a crop, the farmer can easily send a picture to the technical field specialist, and he can use the leaf and what he's seeing from there and give that initial diagnosis of what to do. And this has saved us a lot. So for us, technology is a tool. Philanthropy stays, but technology is a tool that helps us move faster. It's like rocket fuel for us in FarmCrowdy.
So technology being rocket fuel. I'm going to open it up to our audience for some questions in a little bit, but I want to change. We've been talking a lot about how technology is enabling learning, enabling monitoring and evaluation in many ways, enabling diagnosis, problem solving, reducing costs. But we know technology is not a panacea. It doesn't cure all things. So tell me a time when technology has not enabled. Tell me a time when it's gone wrong. For folks who are in the process of thinking through what technology can do for their philanthropies, for their NGOs, what should they be aware of? What are the cautionary tales around philanthropy, around technology and philanthropy?
I mean, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to talk about where technology, has maybe failed us, but I know there are challenges we face when we're on the field, even as a technology company, and so I think maybe that can be useful. The fact that I want to work far away from Lagos and go to places where normally people won't get to, and then I can't send emails anymore, or I can look through, an Excel sheet that has been hosted in the cloud anymore because there is no internet access, can be some of the challenges we face. And that's why we tell people that, sometimes we assume that technology has to be all complex, all powerful, all fancy. Technology can just be the fact that the system that provides all of that information that I require internet to solve is also sound enough to provide it using an SMS platform that can work in a place where there is no internet access. So yes, sometimes you feel like it's broken. It feels like it's broken. Maybe there's a point where you're supposed to submit a report and there is a weekend update, on the cyber grant tool that you're using, and you're like, oh no, how am I going to go, get off this now? And that's why we must be able to create sustainable options that can make things work. But ultimately, what I have seen is that everywhere traditional means couldn't take us to, technology has taken us there. There are issues around privacy, issues around, data protection, which are issues people tend to go towards when they talk about the limitations that they have with technology. But, being with an organization like Microsoft, and far from the fact that I'm saying this because I work with Microsoft, I luckily had the chance to get exposed to Microsoft long before I even joined the company as a student. So I sort of got an idea of how conscious they were about privacy, about data protection, about some of the key things that we might be concerned about. If the data on, you have one of those IoT sensors in your farm and it's sending, data to somebody, and maybe it's vital data, and that vital data is intercepted somehow, what are the concerns? Those are some of the limitations, but there's been billions of dollars invested in ensuring that if you buy technology from the right source, if you acquire it from the right places, if you work with the right companies, you are going to always get at least a 99.99% uptime and some higher standard of security that can only be affected by some force that erases the entire planet. Not anything like, it has to be really, really massive before, if you get what I mean. So there's been a lot of investment. Let me give you an example about data redundancy. If you work in any of the maybe fields that has a lot to do with data, and that data is so crucial, you know, there's geographic redundancy. You're storing your data in East US. It's also backed up somewhere. It's backed up in like 5 locations across the world, and you're certain that at least to a very great extent you have no concerns or worry, about what is going on. And when physical disasters happen in your country, all the data you stored on your computer doesn't go away. You're on the field or you're traveling to find out what is happening in the Northeast, and you lose your device. All of those grants requests that you've been writing, all of those reports you've been trying to give, every single thing you've been working on over the years, the pictures, they don't just go away because you backed them off somewhere. So I think over the past few years, I've basically focused on how it can enhance me rather than how it has potential to limit me.
I'll challenge you on that. What about the urban-rural divide? Because a lot of the things you're talking about would work well in the urban setting, but when we go into the rural setting, where a lot of we have grantees or we have solutions we're trying to solve, I think the farm will give us a different perspective. But how do you address that?
Thank you. We have showcased our strength in the areas where the challenges are supposed to be more. So what I mean is when I make examples from Ilaje Seldo, from in Akure, in Ondo State. I'll make examples from Banawa, in Kaduna State. I'll make examples from places where normally you won't imagine that there will be all of this access. And across all the villages of Sub-Saharan Africa, solar systems, IoT, Internet of Things, these small things are not things that are just researched in some lab in California. They are things that are bringing solutions to farms like that of Onyeka here. So, and as it may appear like things that are still very far-fetched, you would be amazed that because they do not require a bachelor's degree to understand how to connect a small sensor to the roots of a plant, it doesn't require a degree from Harvard to be able to, maybe text, one on a button to something when you want to call for an emergency. These things have worked in all kinds of places. You've heard about the story of Ushaidi, in Haiti. You've heard the story of Mkopa and M-Pesa in Kenya, and there are local stories that we are still working on as well, gathering because they're still trying to scale. But all of these realities make us know that regardless of how far in the hinterlands people may be who need solutions, technology can work in the most ridiculous places on this planet.
Onyeka, limitations of technology that you're seeing with Farm Crowdy.
As much as it's an enabler for me, one of the things I've come to notice is that the wrong use of technology is a distraction to doing good. And just the way you have people that have good intentions that are building platforms like us, you have people that have bad intentions that build platforms, maybe originally good intentions that deviate into becoming bad intentions. And then what they then do is they use the same technology or the same enabler and persuade people off the chart of doing good. And so an individual like a Farm Crowdy or any other platform that's out there that's actually really supposed to now do good, now has a distraction to deal with. How genuine are you? How sure am I that you are not like similar platforms that have come in the past? So for me, and running Farm Crowdy, the first thing I've seen is the distraction from the guys that have the wrong intentions. The second thing I've seen is the use of technology to harm good intentions and twist them. So, for instance, you get on social media today, and let me use an example on Facebook. There were days you go on Facebook and you hear somebody has this ill health and somebody is trying to raise funds for them, and people rally around. And then they send all the funds and then the person gets the funds. Some of them successfully come out of it. Some of them, unfortunately, move on. Some other people have used that the wrong way and use the same channel to deceive people. So The use of channels also has impeded it. You now have to, as a genuine business, you now have to make an extra effort to show why yours is different from the others, as against you just playing on a new ground. So now you have to, for us, for instance, in Farm Cloudy, we have to tell the stories of the farmers. We tell the story of the farmer before he came on Farm Cloudy. We tell the story of the farmer after he went through Farm Cloudy. We tell the story of sponsors. We tell the stories of followers. We have to tell a lot of stories now. As against times in the past, you just put something out and then people just support that. So that's something else. The other thing is, he talked about data. It's a big concern. And how people trust technology, trust systems, release their data to them, and then eventually even some of the most secure systems in the world get hacked. And when this happens, you lose trust, you lose, for instance, just yesterday or 2 days ago, that one of the biggest social network in the world had to come out to say how one country was pushing the agenda of them against another, pushing the agenda of one opponent over another. And as simple as it is, it's a big deal for maybe one of the biggest social networks we've ever had to be a victim of this or to play into that space. Not to talk of other platforms that are still coming up. So everyone just really has to watch their guard, how you deal with data. How you deal with data, how you deal with people's data, how you deal with people's privacy. A lot of effort has been put into that. But in all of this that I've said, in every problem, there's the opportunity to find solutions and really make your own stand out. And the problems the problems we keep encountering helps us make us better, helps us prove our worth to people out there.
No, that's helpful. So technology is an enabler. We talked a little bit about trust earlier. You do have to reinforce people's trust or build people's trust in technology by standing out in many ways because it can be used for good or for ill. Yeah. Before I turn it over to folks for any questions, I would like us to dream a little, if we can, for about maybe 1 minute. In the world of artificial intelligence, in the world of flying cars and driverless cars and big data, and the world we're going into, can you tell us a little bit about the trend of philanthropy and technology? And I understand that, we're not sitting every day thinking of this, but based on your experiences, where's the future of philanthropy and technology? Knowing where the world is going, and what should we be sharing as philanthropies in this room in different stages of our philanthropic lives, in different scales and different reaches? How should we be thinking about tomorrow's interaction between technology and philanthropy? Olushola, I'll let you start.
Okay. So, I think I can only contribute to this. It's a massive answer, but I'm going to sort of try to contribute. First, for those of us who live and work in some of the continents or countries where people like to call third world because we don't have all the privileges and benefits that those in the developed world has, it's a time to actually rethink the way we do our work and think about how we can compress 20 years into 10, 10 years into 5 years into 1, and begin to see how we can increase the impact of our work to touch the next 1 billion. You see how the population of Africa is moving so fast, growing so fast. We have a responsibility to know that if we must, for example, take technology to the last mile, to the people who need it, then we ourselves must transform. We must go digital ourselves. We can't go on to do things the way we used to do them, so we can move faster, so we can access people faster, so we can connect with people faster, so we can, reach our donors or our extended donors faster, and so we can reach our beneficiaries in entirely new ways. The other challenge is the fact that we are not serving the generation of the 80s. Now we're serving the millennials. We're serving a new set of beneficiaries. These beneficiaries are fast, they are quick, they are swift, they are people. Some people say they have an entitlement mindset. They believe everything you do for them or for us is is something they actually deserve. So you have all of that to basically understand. And if you are not like technologically enabled, you won't be able to reach those people because you can call them born in the cloud. They woke up signing up on Facebook at the age of 7 or 8, because they could. So essentially, everybody playing in this philanthropic space must realize how important it is for them to get set for what is next, or to start working on themselves. Empower your employees, empower your staff, empower yourself. You yourself must be visionary and begin to see how all of these things begin to affect your people. How the ill effects of technology will begin to affect your beneficiaries, and how you can step in really, really quickly. And the other part is that for those in the last mile, there is a chance that usual business will never push technology to them in time, or just in time enough for them to be able to do what they're supposed to do with their lives. So this is around the question of skills development and empowerment of people who don't even have basic education. Right now, we're still talking about having the highest, dropout rates, in the world for primary education. And we're already talking about artificial intelligence, big data, how people must do computer science. They've not even done basic literacy. So we have a lot of work to do. We need to double our efforts and realize that the same way many African countries jumped the telephone to move to the internet, there is room to overtake in some things. In some things, you don't have to follow the cycle the way Britain did or follow it the way the United States did. We might need to jump some things to be able to catch up with the rest of the civilized world, and more importantly, be able to live to our true potential as Africans.
Okay, I will borrow some of the lines he's put up. One of the things that's scary is, if you go to the US today, you start hearing about Tesla bringing electric cars. And you hear about electric cars. I don't know if we figured it out. Maybe in the next 20 years, all the cars that we used to bring to Nigeria from the US will be electric cars. I don't know where we'll bring those cars from to Nigeria any longer. There's a big divide that's happening. And he said it, we have to step up. We have to brazen up. I was in IBM's office, and I found out about a server that can be put on a farm to tell the farmers and to tell the farm coordinator on a 50-hectare to 500-hectare farm the condition of the soil, the condition of the plants. It's a robot. So where's the farmer? It got me scared. Because, yes, as much as I want to embrace that and get into smartphone, but the rural farmer, where will he be placed in this? So we have to, he talked about education. Will I tell the rural farmer how to operate that server or that robot on the farm? I have to first educate him first in proper literacy before getting to that point. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I think we also need to be careful about something that is becoming a trend, where a lot of Africans, the smart ones, are getting smart and getting knowledgeable about some of these technologies of the future, but very quickly are leaving Africa to Europe or to the US to go and implement or work on these technologies without finding ways of doing it here in Africa. That drain, if it continues, we will get to a point where many of our best talents will not be in Africa. And what's that? It's almost a return to slavery again for us. We have to get our acts together. We have to enable our space. We have to get our smart people to stay back and build technologies for us here. A lot of people out there have to come back home and enable technologies here. I recently found out that the first black professor in and the first black professor in 1965 in Georgia Tech is a Nigerian. And he is currently on the board of NASA. Very smart man. But he's there in the US. And I'm telling Papa, come back. He said, yes, they should come and meet me here. I'll pass knowledge, they'll take it back. He told me, he said, where's the healthcare system? Where's the electricity? Where's the enabling space for me to come back and do what I need to do back home? We have to get those things back up. But that being said, for those of us that are here, we'll continue doing what we need to do. The knowledge we have, we'll continue enabling ourselves. The smart people around, let us continue putting our heads together and continue building the best we can build with what we have here. Lastly, philanthropy is about emotions. Technology will change, but it's about the heart. People will give. The channel to give may change. Yes, people used to do payroll giving. Now they've moved to online giving. Tomorrow they may move to something else. It's still here in the heart about giving and philanthropy. I don't think so much will change in terms of how people will give. I mean, in terms of people giving, but how they give is what may change.
Thank you for that. So the heart will hopefully remain, and how we give through the heart is what will change. I would like to open it up to the audience. Questions, please. There are 2 mics up front. If you just walk up to either of those mics, so please ask your question. Thank you.
Why are you laughing? Don't panic. It's a very simple question. All right. You both talked very passionately about technology and technology being outside of Nigeria. But one question, what's Microsoft doing about encouraging Nigerians to develop local software that addresses local issues? You already talked about the problem. What are you doing about the solution? And what are you doing about building as well the same technology? You talked about electric cars and all of the frightening things of the future. But what are you doing directly to resolve those things that you've identified as a problem? What are you doing personally to address those problems you've identified?
Thank you. So, first question, what can you guys answer those, and then we'll take the other 2 questions.
Okay, so very quickly, just 2 days ago, on Thursday, we launched an initiative called the Nigerian Women Tech Stars Initiative to basically focus on 7,200 women from 12 states. The goal is to take them through a 3-month technology incubation program where they identify local problems in their communities, in those states, and build from what they just learned, small, simple mobile apps, simple hardware solutions, simple IoT solutions, Internet of Things solutions that can basically help to solve local problems. And those kind of initiatives, what we ultimately do is connect them to, number 1, our For Africa initiative, which is a larger initiative to identify any of those kind of projects or programs that have the higher potential to scale. So we support them. One of those was Gamso, the first indigenous, mobile game developer to build games that have up to 20 million downloads. So Biola Olaniran, somebody, who is running his own now. So we want to identify several people like that and make several other Biolas, who can create solutions that can solve local problems around them. The other thing we do very close to that is that we connect them to those Nigerians in diaspora who are either within the Microsoft community or across, other organizations who have the ability, the $10,000, the $20,000, that is a miracle to some startup who is just getting started here, might not be so much of a big deal to that person, and then we make that connection and things begin to happen. So that's like some of the efforts that we make around here, and we're looking for how to do better.
Okay, my background is in programming, software engineering, and for me, I've dedicated myself to solving real problems. Now I'm dealing with agriculture, there's real estate, there's transportation. One of the things I decided to do earlier on with Philanthropy was to build a platform that would first get sponsors to connect with farmers. The second thing, educate people about the agricultural value chain, the agriculture process. And that's why our mobile app we're launching on November 14th. I call it the app that puts a farm in people's pockets. Get to know farmers, get to understand the agricultural process, have the fundamental knowledge before you invest in a farm so that people make less and less mistakes. From the farmer's perspective, we're also training them on how to use smartphone devices so that our technical field specialists, because we're building an app with our technical field specialists, who will be able to coordinate with more farmers across different locations. And eventually, that app can be used by other people in other farms who want to communicate with more farmers beyond the Philanthropy platform. One other thing I'm advocating for, and this is something we're trying to champion, is to build a hub of everyone that is using technology to solve problems for agriculture so that they can all stay in one place and consolidate their efforts together. Nigerians building technology for agriculture in Nigeria, stay in one place and coordinate your efforts together and then bring out solutions in a collaborative manner. Nobody can do this alone. I've come to see that. And in all the efforts we put together to do this, one little way over the other, this is something that's futuristic for us, but it's something I am very passionate about that we will do over time.
And we have the Silicon Valley, we have the Silicon Savannah, which is Kenya, we have the Silicon Lagoon, which is Yaba, and there's, Main One laid their fiber optics and their hubs, co-creation hub, where you see young people solving problems, creating software to solve African, local, Nigerian problems. So that's an opportunity for philanthropy as well. I know we have two questions, three. Okay, great. Maybe if we could pool our questions.
Hi. My name is Kennedy. I'm from Highlight Foundation, Harare, Zimbabwe. I'm old school. So I just want to hear the numbers, because since yesterday we spoke about Africa having about 200 million youth very soon, and then ending up maybe with about 400 million very soon. So I just want to hear from the people on the panel, what numbers are they talking about? If I can just give you where I'm coming from. In Highlight Foundation, we set out a big, hairy, audacious goal of raising 2 million leaders by 2020. And then we embraced technology as an enabler and a multiplier for that. And as we speak today, we have got 750,000 young people on that particular solution that we're providing. So I'm just concerned that if we speak without putting the numbers on the scoreboard, we might end up being too descriptive, and yet we've got a real challenge before us that need us to actually talk numbers and be able to come back next year and tell each other how much have we progressed. Thank you.
Excellent.
Good afternoon. My name is Fumi Lori, and I'm a teacher. I'm a Yali Fellow, and I'm a social philanthropist. I run a mobile library for children, Books on Wheels. And in looking at the gaps, my dream is to build the largest network of libraries in Africa. The gaps are, for me to achieve that dream, I need technology, but then I cannot afford it. So I'm buying into existing platforms like the Tumble books to put on my platform, and then people can have access. Now, one of the challenges is data. For me to use that in underserved communities, I need to invest about 20,000 naira every month in order to share this with the children. Three things. What are you doing to train teachers, to empower them? If the teachers do not know about technology, it's not likely that the children will learn about technology. Secondly, what are you doing with young African leaders, people that have taken up initiatives to start up things? We are not yet there. There are many things we cannot afford. What type of support is available? And thirdly, based on my own work, the mobile library, what type of facility or support is available so that more children can read, both with data and probably without data? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's very specific around teachers.
Thank you. I have a question for Onyeka, but let me preface it with some data. I've heard that the average age of a farmer in Africa is between The average age of a farmer in Africa is between 55 and 60. and getting older. Which means that one of the challenges that Africa has is the next generation in terms of food security, sustainability of agriculture. What I've also observed is millennials are attracted by technology. Farming is not seen as something that's technology enabled and therefore not attractive to millennials. So the question is, are you finding in crowdfunding that your typical customer, farmer, is actually increasingly, in terms of profile, more millennial or older? And if so, is it because of that technology enablement that you're attracting the millennials? Thanks.
Great. So maybe, Onyeka, if you start with that last question around the age and the average age of farmers, and then we'll take it from there.
The data he presented is true, but recently, with the effort the government has been putting into encouraging people to get into agriculture, we find a lot of youths. And when I say youths, I'm talking people that have just from youth service to 35 that are now interested in getting into the agriculture space. And this time around, they're not getting into agriculture for tilling as much as breaking the ground to put seed in the ground. They're getting into agribusiness. It can be across the value chain, whether you're a fertilizer supplier, you're in the agriculture business, you're a tractor provider, you're in the agriculture business. You provide the technical field specialist, and you arrange them for people like us to access them. You're in the business. Whether you're even running drones in farms for us to get signals of what's going on, you're still in the agribusiness. And so as many youths are beginning to understand that the value chain goes beyond production into so many other things, warehousing, transportation, logistics, it's getting a lot more exciting for them. And now in Farm Crowdy, we're having a lot of youths participating in the rural farms. And many of them also are coming from families where their fathers were farmers, their grandfathers were farmers. They want to be farmers, but they've not seen how to earn a decent living from farming. With us providing that expertise for them to now earn a decent living, they're excited about staying put in that same space. So yes, it's true, many of them are in that age range you talked of, but a lot of the youths are now looking at getting involved. But let me give an example quickly again. The IITA recently did a youth program with the NYIC, and now with us in Farm Crowdy, we're connecting to that program to get youths from the IITA in Ibadan to work with some of the farms we're going to be working on, so that these people can then experience firsthand what happens in the farm, get a decent living, and be encouraged to participate in the sector as a whole. This is what we're seeing today.
Thank you. Mr. Laurie had a question around education, and I find it's a very targeted question. If you could speak quickly, if at all, to that, please do. And then I have one last question for both of you, which is, what is your aspiration as far as reach, numbers, and where are you right now? So how many farmers are you planning on reaching by when? Where are you right now? And from Microsoft Philanthropies, how many organizations, grantees, whatever that measure of success looks like, where's the reach and where are you now? So we have to wrap it up quickly.
All right, so do I take those questions first before? Yeah, so very quickly, reason why I desist from actually talking about the numbers is because several people critique us and say you talk too much about the numbers, but now you're asking for that. So all across Africa, with our new wave of Youth Spark initiative, we'll be reaching over 800,000 young people across, the East and Southern Africa, across Sub-Saharan Africa, across Northern Africa, in between 2017 and 2018. And the past years, we've done quite some really, really interesting numbers, supporting young people, which is going to take me to our number. So when I joined Microsoft 3 years ago, our goal was to get more people into jobs by actually bridging the employability gap. So we identified nonprofits who were working specifically on that, and I can say very categorically that over 130,000 people, young people specifically, were reached with direct employability trainings, soft skills programs. We could account for about 4,000 of them connecting to jobs directly. A number of them you can measure because in a year's time, 2 years' time, some of them were in school then, some were in NYSC. When they will use that CV writing skill you taught them, you might not be able to tell, but over time you would find it really useful. But now that we're focusing specifically on computer science education, we can specifically put our hands on the numbers, like the 26,920 I told you we trained last year. During the December Hour of Code in 2016, we reached out to 10,000 people, over 10,000, 10,254 young people all over Nigeria learned how to code using Minecraft. And this year now, the 2017-2018 year, in Nigeria has a bigger chunk out of all the other countries across Africa. We're doing 500,000 young people using a train-the-trainer model, and we're partnering with development banks, and a number of other organizations to be able to do more of this. What I want to really say is these numbers don't challenge me. They don't challenge me whatsoever. It's cool to say 500,000. It's good to say 4,000. All these numbers are small compared to the 40 million young people that are in Nigeria. So anytime I get a chance to talk like this, and I'm glad that the group of people we have here today are either philanthropists or non-profit, I am saying challenge us. Work with several more private sector organizations. Go to them and find out what they are doing. Ask them questions. Bring your initiatives and ask them what they want to achieve and how you can help them to achieve it. Talking about the teacher training program, we have 7,200 teachers, 7,200 teachers currently, over 7,000 on our educator network, where we connect them with technology tools. Those tools can serve more than 7,000. So as a non-profit here, as a philanthropist here, what we are saying is, whatever teacher network you have, connect them to our resources. These resources are just lying there. Videos about how to use Skype in the classroom, how to use Windows 10 in the classroom, how to use digital cameras to help teaching become more effective. These tools can be used by several other people. Israel is recording thousands, hundreds of thousands of teachers on their platform. Turkey, the same. What is wrong with Nigeria? We have these conversations every single time. There are infrastructure barriers we can identify, but please help us move even forward so we can do a lot.
So the challenge has been set. Task them. Use the model. Really quickly, Onyeka, how many farmers are you trying to reach? By when? And where are you right now?
At the moment, we've currently worked with 1,800 direct farmers and 2,500 indirect farmers. The direct farmers, people that own land, indirect farmers, people that support the farmers that own the land. We have on our waiting list around close to 4,000 farmers for next year. We want to be able to engage all 4,000 farmers next year. Our goal is that in 2019 we do 10,000 farmers. But those numbers are nothing compared to the number of farmers in Nigeria. There are 38 million small-scale farmers in Nigeria, and there's 200 million acres of farmland available for people, arable farmland in Nigeria to work on. So it's still a pinch of what we need to do. But every day we get excited when we're empowering more farmers and we're changing their lives, and then those numbers keep stacking up. But let me end my own bit with this. So I tell people it's information technology, and there's the information part before the technology part. The problem is that we focus on, okay, what technology do I need and all. We don't focus on what information you need to gather to use the technology to solve your problem. I mean, hearing what he said and the many tools he's talked about, the problem is the information, people don't have it, or it's there, they don't know where to find it, and then the technology is lying there wasting. So I think the more we become informed about the tools to use, then we can do better with what we have.
That's an excellent place to end. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking my panel for this vibrant conversation, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you.